I have a confession to make. When Mike Johnson became Speaker of the U.S. House, I didn't know who he was. And I didn't think he would last very long in the job. And you know what? Mike Johnson, good on you. You proved me, and I think a lot of other people, very, very wrong. Let's go through Johnson, what he's done, and why he has, in some ways, shocked the political world with what he's done. So, Mike Johnson, you will remember, becomes Speaker of the House after Kevin McCarthy gets kicked out. He gets kicked out, McCarthy that is, because Matt Gaetz and a handful of other House Freedom Caucus members, who are sort of the most Trumpy members of the House, decide to that McCarthy is no longer fulfilling the promises he made. He's not loyal enough to Trump, whatever that means, and he needs to go. They file a petition to get rid of him, to vacate the Speaker's chair. It happens. The Republican Party is then thrown into utter chaos, because here's the thing. While those handful of people, Gaetz and his crew, had a plan to get rid of McCarthy, they had no plan of who would replace McCarthy, right? So we went through, first was Jim Jordan, the Ohio Republican. He didn't get the votes. Steve Scalise, the Louisiana Republican. He didn't get the votes. Tom Emmer, the Minnesota Republican. He, I think, didn't even wind up getting a vote. And so what you had was utter chaos, right? You had McCarthy out, no one else in. It was not clear who could get a majority of the Republican conference to vote for them. Republicans just look like fools, right? They look like incapable fools. And then all of a sudden comes Mike Johnson, this Louisiana guy who almost no one, including me who does this for a living, had really heard of. Kind of a nerdy guy with glasses. Not that guys with glasses are always nerdy. This guy's super cool. But point is, like, not that many people had heard of him, which actually worked tremendously in his favor, because he was inoffensive enough to enough Republicans, and they had sort of prostrated themselves and seen this process look really bad for them politically long enough that they said, enough is enough. Let's just put this guy in. Okay, he wins. But no one, maybe this side of Mike Johnson and his wife, maybe his kids, thought Mike Johnson is definitely going to be a speaker who can wrangle this really, really fractious caucus. And I will admit that I didn't think that Mike Johnson was sort of long for the political world when he got the job. And I certainly didn't think after the 2024 election, where yes, Donald Trump won, and yes, Republicans won back the Senate majority, but lost seats in the House and saw an already small majority shrink to almost nothing. They have a 3-seat majority right now in the U.S. House. I thought to myself, no one can probably do this job effectively. No one on the Republican side, probably no one on the Democratic side. It's basically impossible to govern when you have a 3-seat majority. You can only lose 3 people in your party, assuming you don't get anybody in the other party to vote for you. You can only lose 3 people in your party on anything. Like, it's really, really, really hard. I can't emphasize that enough, how hard it is to make the House work when you have that tiny a majority, okay? So that's where we've been in my expectations. Before I get to what Mike Johnson has done and how he has drastically overperformed mine and I think a lot of other people's expectations, I want to make a pitch to you. I want you to become a subscriber to this channel, and I'm going to tell you why you should. Because politics and policy in Washington have never been more important. What you need is a trusted guide to tell you what matters and as importantly, what doesn't matter. What I am doing is I am doing just that. I'm calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. I'm telling it like it is. I don't have a partisan bent. I spent decades in mainstream media at CNN and the Washington Post, among others, and I look at everything through a reporter's lens. I'm going to tell you why something matters or why it doesn't matter, why it's good for a party, why it's bad for a party, but I'm not going to do that with partisan glasses on. These are independent glasses that I have on. So please, I hope you subscribe. All right, so the run-up to all of this is 2025 dawns, and I think to myself, I mean, Mike Johnson, by the end of the year, he's not going to be there, right? He's overseeing this really fractious group of House Republicans where there are moderates who are trying to get reelected in New England, and there's this hardcore Trump base, and then there are the fiscal hawks, right? There's just, it's a wide party, and you have a 3-seat majority. Okay, first vote. Mike Johnson as Speaker. And I think to myself, it took Kevin McCarthy 16 votes, I think, to become speaker. It was really painful. He's grinding away, and eventually he became speaker. And I thought to myself, I bet Mike Johnson probably, goes through some of that too, right? Because there were people on the right and on the left who weren't, the left of the Republican Party, who weren't thrilled with him. He made it on the first vote. He became speaker on the first vote. Now, they held that vote open for a really long time. Votes are supposed to be 15 minutes. They almost never are. But they held it open for a long time. He had to cajole people. Donald Trump called people and said, hey, Mike Johnson's my guy. I mean, it was not without some drama, but compared to McCarthy and his 16 votes or whatever, it was pretty bloodless. There was not a lot of Republican infighting on display. So that's number one. And I was like, I didn't expect that. I expected Mike Johnson. I wasn't even sure if Mike Johnson was going to get reelected as speaker, but I certainly thought if he was going to get reelected, it was going to be more painful and more prolonged than that. That's point one. Point two. In March, the government looks like it's going to potentially shut down. This would have been a bad thing for the Republican Party because they control the White House, the House, and the Senate. All of the pressure was on Mike Johnson because people were looking at the House. He was trying to pass a government funding bill to keep the government open through September. And I think a lot of other people, were very skeptical he was going to do it because, again, they have a 3-seat majority. It's really hard to do. And if he hadn't done it, it would have put all the pressure on Republicans to make some kind of deal to keep the government open because they had failed in the House. The Senate's not going to take up the House measure if the House measure doesn't pass, etc., etc. He got it done. Now, again, I think it got done by one vote, but you have a 3-seat majority. All you need to do is win, right? He got it passed. What did that mean? It then put the pressure on Senate Democrats because Senate Democrats were blocking a final simple majority vote to keep the government open, and 9 of them, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, eventually caved. Democrats helped Senate Republicans keep the government funded and open. And they only did that because Mike Johnson, against all odds, was able to pass a government funding bill through a narrowly divided House. Okay, that's point 2. Point 3, and as you know in journalism, 3 things make it a trend. Point 3 happened this week. Donald Trump is pushing this, in his words, one big, beautiful bill. This is a budget outline that will fund his priorities, what he wants to get done on immigration and national security and everything else for the next fiscal year. This bill, because it's gigantic, has lots of detractors. You add one thing, you lose some people on the other end. You make those people happy, you lose people on this end. Again, a 3-seat majority, very, very, very hard to do. Johnson, they decided not to bring the bill up on Wednesday night because they thought they didn't have the votes. Johnson on Thursday morning says, we now have the votes. It's going to happen. Lots of people, including lots of very smart congressional observers, kind of rolled their eyes and thought it's not going to happen. Well, it happened. 216 to 214. Now, again, not a wide margin, but you're never going to get a wide margin in this day and age. It's just not going to happen. So now you have one big, beautiful bill that is passed, that Donald Trump's agenda is able to move forward. So that's 3 times. The speaker vote, the government funding vote, and the budget vote, where Mike Johnson was able to get something done that I candidly did not think he would. He was able to accomplish, and you can disagree with the agenda that Mike Johnson represents, but my point is, the job as speaker is to pass legislation that your president and sort of your members are supportive of. It's really hard to do when you have that small a majority in as polarized a time as this, in as fractious a moment as this is for the Republican Party, and yet the bespectacled guy from Louisiana that nobody had heard of 2 years ago got it done. And I think you have to take a minute and say, give this guy credit. I think, candidly, just with those 3 accomplishments, he's probably shown himself to be a better speaker than Kevin McCarthy, the guy he replaced. I think he has, and who knows, things change fast in politics, particularly Republican politics, but I think that he has shown himself to be a significantly more effective speaker than almost anyone thought he would be. He is, I think, deeply underrated. Whether you like him or you hate him, you have to give him credit for what he has done in the last 5.5, 6 months as Speaker of the House. I underestimated him. He deserves much more credit than I gave him. And I've been impressed by what he's done given the political challenges whether it's Donald Trump, a small majority, the nature of the Republican conference in the House. The guy's done a good job, and he deserves credit for it. And he's done a much better job than I think anyone thought he might reasonably do in these circumstances. So, good on him. Okay, a couple things. As I said before, I hope you subscribe to this channel. I'm bringing you daily... Thank you, Thumb. I am bringing you daily videos, and I'm doing a live chat every Friday, 1 p.m. I will be there tomorrow at 1 p.m. doing a live chat with you. Any questions you got, I'll answer them. I also ask you to like and comment on this video. This video, if you do, it helps it get out to more people. The YouTube algorithm rewards likes and comments. It's a way to get my content like this out to as many people as possible. I hope you do that. I also help you take the opportunity to tell a friend or two or five about this channel. Again, you're not going to agree with everything that I say. You shouldn't. If you agree with everything someone like me says, they're selling you something or they're lying to you. You're not going to agree with everything I say. You might not agree with this, but this is really, really, really important. Now more than ever, we need to have people who are calling balls and strikes, who are saying this is good, this is bad, regardless of party. I think now more than ever, that's critically important. Anyway, thank you for listening, and take good care.